Greetings and welcome to another edition of Emerging Tech Talk. I'm your host, Dan York, and today I want to ask you, what are your plans? What are your personal plans for communication in times of a natural disaster? And what role can voice over IP and other technologies play to let you make and receive phone calls? This has been brought home rather vividly to me because I live in southwestern New Hampshire, Keene to be precise. And if you've been noticing on the news, we had this wee minor little ice storm going on up here over the past several days, or since the end of last week. Now, it affected, I think, 400,000 homes. They were talking about 1.2 million people across all of the states up here were affected by this. Now, Keene itself, where I live, was miraculously not affected. Apparently, we're in a bit of a valley, and we were a degree or two warmer, and we got rain instead of the ice. But all around us, there are communities where people are without power now, several days after the storm, and potentially maybe out for another week or two in some cases. I saw a bit of this myself. I flew in from sunny Orlando, Florida on Friday evening, landed in Manchester, New Hampshire at the airport there, and then drove across a road called Route 101, which is a state highway that snakes and winds through the areas of pretty rural areas at times of southern and southwest New Hampshire, getting out here to Keene. And it went right through the heart of some of the worst affected areas around Peterborough and Dublin, etc. And I've lived in New Hampshire all my life, or New England I should say, all my life. And I've seen a lot of trees down and a lot of power lines, but man, I saw more in this storm than I've ever seen in my life. It was huge, and you understand why it's going to take power crews days and probably weeks to clean all this mess up. But it did bring home to me, how do I communicate in times of when the communications infrastructure is knocked out? Because we use iPhones as our corporate phone, and it's a great phone. I love it on so many levels. But the AT&T network, despite its ads about having more bars in more places, I can personally tell you that some of the places where they do not have bars are southern New Hampshire. And AT&T coverage is poor or just good at best on a good day. And Friday night was definitely not a good day. And so I pretty much had no cell phone coverage. There must have been some towers out, pretty much all the way home. Now, it occurred to me, of course, of what happens if my car were to go off a ditch and slide on the ice. How would I call people? How would I get through to them? Or if I needed to reach somebody? And on the ride home, it did occur to me that I did have a backup plan, and that's this. I have a wireless WAN adapter from Verizon in this case that I could plug into my MacBook Pro, get up on the Verizon network, and then use Skype to make outbound calls to the PSTN, the Public Switch Telephony Network. Now, I could have also used Gizmo or any other soft phone that I happen to have on there, assuming, of course, Verizon's network was up. But Verizon has a much denser network up here than AT&T, and so the odds of it being down are probably less than AT&T, certainly. The good news is I have two networks. So I've got AT&T and Verizon, so one of them would hopefully be up. But I could be able to use the Verizon connection to use a soft phone on my MacBook to go out. That would be sending. What would you use? What connections do you have out there? And what about receiving? We had the issue ourselves. We had my daughter's school was canceled today because of the outage in the surrounding area, and so we had to, last night, do the old class phone tree. And so we need to reach out to somebody who we know lives in an area that was affected and could not reach them, didn't have their cell phone, and so couldn't contact them. Which made me think again, what if my home phone line were impacted? How would people reach me? What if my home phone line and my cell phone were out? In my case, I have a number that actually two numbers. One of them is through Grand Central, which is now a Google acquisition. Which what happens is you dial that one number and then it forks out to multiple different phone lines. In my case, that service goes out to my Skype through my Skype in number, through SIP to Gizmo, through SIP to my desk phone, my Voxeo phone here on my desk, through the PSTN to my home phone, and also to my cell phone. So one number rings 5 phones, hopefully one of which I would be able to answer in some way. And actually in that case, if I didn't answer, it would go to a voicemail that would send me an attachment via email. So it would hit me on email as well. Now I have a second number that I subsequently built because I haven't 100% been sure what Google's doing with Grand Central. So I built my own system using Voxeo's platform at evolution.voxeo.com, where I created a CCXML application which did the same thing. Somebody calls into that number and it forks it out to a number of different phone lines, so that somebody can be able to can pick that up, and one of those lines can ring. I could also add my wife's cell phone if I wanted to, or I mean, you could go on with the permutations of this type of system are there. There's probably some services I could add to one of these that would give me SMS outbound or transcription into an email. You could go on and go crazy with a number of ways you could do that. But the point is, I have one phone number that people have that can then go out and reach me on all those different ways. Hopefully, in a time of crisis, one of those would work, that I'd be able to get there. So what would you do? Other than, of course, not live in southern New Hampshire, as some of my Floridian colleagues have already pointed out. It's nice and sunny there, no ice storms. But of course, they have hurricanes. And there's, in different parts of the world, there's earthquakes, tornadoes, fires, monsoons, whatever. There's various different events. The key question is, I think wherever you live, there are potential natural disasters which will knock out the communications infrastructure. What will you do? How does Voice over IP perhaps play a role in that or not? I'd be curious what comments you all may have. Are there solutions you've found? Are there things you've done? Please feel free to leave those comments either at the show website, blogs.voxeo.com/ETT, in response to this show. And you can leave video comments there as well through the Seismic plugin we have. Or send me email to dyork@voxeo.com, and perhaps I'll do another show where I respond to some of the suggestions people have. Anyway, in this time, as we enter winter in the Northeast and we have to think about these things, it is a good thing to think about up here. Until another show, this is Dan York signing out. Bye for now, and hopefully you've got a disaster communication plan thought of in advance.